The following event is a simulated event. No racing action is actually occurring. This particular event is a live stream. This means you can listen to it live or go back and listen to it later. Any names mentioned are purely coincidental. This particular music that you will hear in the opening is provided by Suno.ai. Audio sounds provided for the listening pleasure. The sound of the race cars as they stream across will be in stereophonic audio. If you wish to hear the cars passing in stereo, it may be advised to use a pair of headphones or a speaker set with speakers oriented left to right. The cars will start on the left-hand side and portray themselves as they go to the right. Please note that the audio in this recording may be transmitted, but please share responsibly. This means share with good intentions. And remember, love those as you would want yourself to be loved. Missouri Valley, Iowa, the stage for this edition of the Supersonic Infield 200-lap event, a 200-lap affair here on this Saturday morning, as it were, early Saturday morning, middle of the night. And actually, I say Missouri Valley, Iowa, because that's where we're broadcasting, but our intrepid drivers have made the trek out of country to a racetrack in Tokyo, Japan. They're running the Supersonic Infield 200. That is the site of this special event here tonight. And we'll be beaming the sounds of the cars as they pass by you through this coverage today, and why not? The weather in Tokyo, perhaps very different from the weather here in the valley, but that's beside the point. These guys are rocking, they're rolling, and they're ready to go. Well, let's give you the starting lineup and just who is going to be driving. Now, there may be driver changes depending on the situations with the cars. There are several alternates in the field who will take over if other drivers fall out. And that is one rule in sports fan infield racing, that an alternate driver can take over if necessary. So let's give you from back to front. We'll start with 20 cars. We have 20 cars in the field. That means there are exactly 10 rows of 2. And we're going to start with that particular group. In fact, actually, I stand corrected because we were told there were 20 cars, but then 14 rows of 2 because of 28 cars. That's how we've got it. 28 cars in the field, and that's the field that you'll be hearing passing underneath us. So let's get ourselves going and run you down the 28 cars that will be starting. The 28 cars look like this. In 28th position, car number 5, Jeff Hamilton. In the 27th position is car number 91, Buddy Walkowski. Holly Anderson goes in the 26th position. That's outside of row 13. While J.J. McKay goes 25th in the Purdue A-Force stock. These are all stock car type engines, normally aspirated V8 engines in this field tonight. In the 24th position, Amalia Filmar. In the 23rd position, Michelle Hamilton. That is car number 88. By the way, Tamar's car number is 89. In the 22nd position, car 92, John Whitfield. James Petway Jr. drives car number 78, and that goes into the 20th position. I hope I didn't lose my place here, but that is the score. 21st position. 20th position, Rod Wheeler. And the 20th position, that starts the outside of row number 10. Inside row number 10, car 19 in 19th position, Michel Border. Dale Bardoro is in the 18th position. That's outside row number 9. That is in row that is outside row number 9. Stacy Rogers in car number 83 takes care of business in the 17th position, which takes us inside of row 9. Inside row number 8, car 39, and that would be Jeffrey Hamilton. On the inside of row 8, car 84, P.J. Richardson. Robbie Fox takes car number 94, and that is, of course, inside row number 7. Outside row 7, that is. Inside row 7 is car 66, Dominic Duval. Dominic Duval takes inside row 6. Outside row number 5, that's the 10th position, and this guy has been a phenom, a new driver in the series, Steve Uello, and he is taking care of business outside row 10, position 10, that's outside row 5. Inside row 5 is Buddy Wallero. Buddy Wallero takes care of business on inside row 9. Mike Whitfield takes care of business inside or outside row 4. That's position number 8. Nicholas Baker takes care of business on the inside of row number 4, and that's position number 7. Position number 6, which takes you outside of row 5, brings us driver, 3. Outside row 3 is Haley Thomas. Haley Thomas takes care of business outside row 3 with car number 07. Zach Kellogg takes care of business inside of row 3. That's position number 5. Inside row 2, in position number 4, James Petway Sr., who has been talking about retirement for the past several years and just hasn't quite had a reason to retire yet, so he says. But he still does intend to keep going for the rest of the season. James Petway Jr., of course, drives car number 9. In the Bush Memorial, car number 79, with the Bush Memorial on it, in memory of the late NASCAR great Kyle Busch, on the inside of row number 2, that would be Stan Ferrer. On the inside of row number 1, or rather outside row number 1, a young gal who's making her Sports Fan Infield Series debut, Carrie Pritchett. Carrie Pritchett, position number 2 on the outside pole. And by the way, setting an all-track record at the beginning, James Parker Jr., of course, son of our former broadcast colleague for the Sports Fan coverage, Jim Parker. And that means, folks, that we are literally looking at a potential for excitement here today. Our statisticians, by the way, join us across the board. We also want to give some thanks to some of the people who have been supportive for us. So if you are among the many who are listening to us, if you like the content, including the videos describing a little bit about me, as well as our live sports stuff that we're doing, then please hit your like and your subscribe button across the way and keep us coming, keep us booming loud and clear. Your support is what makes our live streams possible. So James Parker Jr. and Carrie Pritchett are on the outside, or on the front row. Little backdoor history why James Petway qualified 4th. He actually qualified 2nd. He was the second fastest qualifier. But due to a post-race tech inspection, they penalized him 2 spots because of an engine change this morning, Japan time, which means he actually should have, in fact, not changed the engine on the day of the event. In fact, that's one of the rules with the Infield Series. You change the engines before, and it has to be approved by SF Infield Series Racing, and the officials have to approve the engine change. However, it was told to us by the by the crew chief of James Petway, which is Mark Patterson. He says one of the things that he likes, at least in this series, is unlike a lot of the major series, a lot of the big name series, is normally you'd go to the tail of the field, while as here, you go to the back of the field. So let's describe the layout of this racetrack. So as you start down the main straightaway, it's kind of an egg. On the one end of the racetrack is sort of the fat end of the egg, and that is down the main straightaway, headed into turn number 1. It's a D-shaped oval. There's a dog leg that goes and separates out of the main straightaway. Once you jet into turn number 1, you have about 14 degrees of banking on the bottom, 13 in the middle, and 12 up top, and that is as you're going. So it's variable banking in the first corner, same with the second corner. All 4 corners a little bit different on the third and fourth corner, though. 14, 15, and 16 degrees on the opposite end of the racetrack, but the problem is the width as you go into 3 and 4. It narrows up in a hurry. Down a very short back straightaway into 3 and 4, you find yourself in a position where if you're a driver trying to make the pass, you may have to hold off the pass till you get down the main straightaway. Though we see drivers sometimes in practice yesterday actually flirted with that white line, and they wanted to go as far as they could across the track, and so they, of course, made every effort to try to see if they could circumvent that. We're going to find out whether or not that happens here today. One of the things that we are looking at, one of the possibilities, one of the things that we do want to keep in mind here with this particular track is the pit stop window. Now, of course, remember, this is a 200-lap event, which means we may see people make this a one-stop event because they can run a long way on the tires. In fact, I am told as many as 94 laps before the first pit stop will have to be made, depending upon if cautions take place. So far, yesterday in the practice, we had very clean racing. The problem spot, as I said, is in turn number 3 and 4, because since the track is narrow, it's 70 feet wide through turns 1 and 2, but it's only 40 feet wide through turns 3 and 4. So you do have to funnel it into single file. Thou shalt not go into turns 3 and 4 too wide. If you do, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to be hung out on the outside of the racetrack or inside of the racetrack being passed a little bit prematurely, or you will be in the garage area waiting to be interviewed if we had enough of a crew to get that going, you'd be interviewed in the garage area after you made contact with the outside retaining wall. Although we don't have any reporters on scene, we literally are all handling things directly from our area, but we don't actually have mics set up for our reporters, although we do have people that'll be able to let us know. We have our intrepid group of people, including Jim Porter, who's going to handle business in the garage area. He'll be passing on notes about what happened with the drivers as they fall out of the race. So we do thank him for making the track. Unfortunately, the equipment that we normally use to get people out and about is not working, and that's why you're just going to hear us there in the booth today. And I say us, there are 2 voices behind me that you will hear, Jess and Haley, who are also keeping me, and actually 3, if you include Nesma, who are keeping us kind of on our toes for today. All right, folks, the field is already on track. We don't have the cars. We have been told by the way we're going to set this up is you will hear the cars under the green flag. But when the caution comes out, or if the caution comes out, the field, you will not hear the audio coming through, and that is because of the a technical issue with our shotgun microphones that we have yet to figure out. When there's too much silence for too long, there's been some issues with that microphonic system. We're working that out, so you'll be able to hear the caution laps as well as the green flag laps. But as it were, you're going to be able to hear the green flag laps. Cars are out on track right now, headed for turn number 3. They are actually not in their formation lap yet, but they're getting that way. Matter of fact, they're setting up in their 14 rows of 2 as we speak. As I said, 28 cars. Now, keep in mind that if I give you different names in the rundown, it's because drivers will have changed at some point. Because there are times drivers will make changes. They sort of share rides. It's like a relay. We'll see how many changes take place during the race. Sometimes there have been no changes. In fact, last weekend in an event we did not cover, the Minutair Road Course invite down in Minutair, Nebraska. There were no driver changes. Of course, James Petway Sr. and James Petway Jr. in a tremendous duel literally went flag to flag, battling each other for the lead. If they weren't on pit road, they literally were dogging each other tooth and tongue around that bend area that goes right around that trailer court where I actually used to live, by the way. And then, of course, the battle as it raged on and on and on. James Petway Jr. and Sr. really had a dad and son battle, and it was one of the greatest battles, I believe, in the infield series history. Of course, they were running twin-turbo V6 engines for that event because of the road course there and the type of downforce required. But tonight they've decided they want to go stock block as they decided to travel out of country. So these guys are prepared, ready to go. Several drivers from the U.S., although one of the drivers on standby is an alternate that will be in the field from Japan. Believe it or not, is Shinji Yakamoto. So he will be a guy that will take care of business in the field. And then Sanjay's daughter, Suki Yakamoto, will also be in the field. Folks, we are about to watch the green flag fall. I'm about to hear 28 cars in my headset, and you are about to hear them over your audio source. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for what appears to be a big group of affairs. The field coming out of the main straightaway. Green flag is out, and we are racing! James Petway Jr., and you will remember he was mired in the back of the pack, has already made it 4 wide into turn number 2, but that ain't going to work as they head for turn number 3 and 4. Already coming back down the main straightaway. James Petway is moving already up to 3rd position, but believe it or not, race leader is Carrie Pritchett. How about that? She took the lead at the start from James Parker, and Parker's already fallen all the way back to the 5th position. James Petway Sr. is in her hip pocket as they come back down the main straightaway. One group of cars, and as a matter of fact, we have them 4 wide. We have 4 wide going into turn number 1. They've already completed lap number 2. They're coming back around here momentarily to complete lap number 3. That's how quickly they get around. It's almost a bull ring. It's like running short track. And James Petway is just dogging the back half of the field. Boy, we are watching some tremendous racing. I'm looking at the front, and they're starting to kind of separate a little bit. But at the very back half of the field, back about where Robbie Fox is running, they went 4 wide down the main straightaway. That's an area you got to really be careful of, because when you get to the turns, it can get a little dicey, but cars are still kind of moving up and down. Carrie Pritchett still has the lead, but she is getting dogged ever so slightly by James Petway. We've got a car that is coming into the pit road, and from what we understand, may be turning his car off. And I just mentioned him earlier as part of that big group in the back of the pack, Robbie Fox. So Robbie Fox is coming into the pit road. We don't exactly know what happened, but it appears his car is actually turned off as we come back to complete number 6 laps. And his car is, apparently there's smoke in the back of his car, according to what we're being told by a couple of people. Now, Jim Porter pointed out to us that it looks like it's green smoke. That means engine. That means his day is done. So he's already blown an engine. Boy, that's the first of these stock block engines to go by the wayside here in this 200-lap affair. We've already getting close to completing 8 of 200 laps right now. And listen to this, folks. Carrie Pritchett is not getting away from James Petway. Petway, let's look at this battle for the lead as it goes into turn number 2. Already. And matter of fact, there was no accident on the track. It looks like as we said, the incident was on pit road. But Pritchett going into turn number 1. As we look at her right now, Petway takes a look on the high side, isn't going to be able to do it. Tucks back in line, headed back to turn number 3. Now again, you have to go through their single file, but James Petway doesn't care. Him and Junior looking up real close, mid-pack. They're going 2-3 wide but that's down the main straightaway. Once they get settled, they're starting to spread out just a little bit. And boy, I didn't expect this, but already well, by about 3 car lengths, but we're going to see here that 3 car lengths may shrink. Oh no, it's getting closer. 2 car lengths the differential. But believe it or not, the front 2 already have a half-lap lead on the rest of the field. That is literally how quickly they're getting around this track. It won't be long as we get ready to complete what looks like 11 laps before they start running into back markers. What's that? Car 17, that's the black flag. And that car, I believe, is Bolero. Buddy Bolero, that is car number 17, and he's been black flagged for avoidable contact as he made contact. The second and third place cars are actually the ones now tussling as Kerry Pritchett has gotten away from James Petway. Petway Sr. and Jr. are the ones going side by side for third. This could be a very, very close fight, folks. Let's look. Or correction, the front 2 are getting up really close to each other. Back bumper, folks, I'm telling you, they're going to go real close together. Keep a really close eye on this, folks. It's a big, big, big move coming out of the corner. Here comes Pritchett with the lead, except not for long. Petway is dogging her into turn number 1. They're taking a look on the high side. There's not going to be a pass. Not at this point. Oh, he hasn't quite gotten around her yet, but he's pulling up door to door. Almost contact. Almost contact going into turn number 2. Matter of fact, they came out of it, but boy, oh boy, precious time. Oh no, here they go into turn number 1. Guess what? Here goes Petway. Here goes Petway. Once again, the roaring tiger. James Petway has made the pass on Kerry Pritchett going into turn number 3. The most unlikeliest of places to make the pass. Pritchett is still standing behind. In fact, we're literally talking about 10,000ths. As a matter of fact, when Petway passed us a minute ago, listen to this, guys. When Petway passed us a moment ago, I am not making this up, the separation at the line, literally 4/10,000ths of a second. 4/10,000ths of a second separating the front 2. How much closer can you get without touching the outside retaining wall? Meanwhile, Pritchett is still kind of hanging back. We understand the 91 car is actually going down pit road already. Or correction, car number 16. Might want to check the timing loop. I don't believe we had a 16 in the field. I'll double check. I believe 16 is, yes, we did. And car 16, and it's because of a driver change. And yes, guess who's getting into the car? The Japanese standout, Shinji Yakamoto, is getting into the car. And what a story. Shinji Yakamoto coming into the field. The reason... And believe it or not, in the 17 car, Suki Yakamoto is also on the track as well. So we'll see between father and daughter, but they're mired at the very back of the pack. They're running into lap traffic. Let's just sort of talk about what's happening here, watching Pritchett and Petway, because now they got to manipulate this lap traffic here. When you get into a pack like this, and you know, one of the things I think that frustrates a driver more than anything is the fact that Pritchett in this case is losing ground to Petway Jr. One of the reasons why she's losing ground to Petway Jr. and why Petway Jr. is going to be pulling up on her back bumper is that as they go through these back markers, you can just see the right side of her car is literally just, when she goes into the corner, there's a lot of understeer, which means the car doesn't want to turn as freely as you would like it to, and that can be a nightmare for a driver. And in her rookie year, we understand Haley Thomas is actually on pit road, folks. We got to stop. We changed directions here because Haley Thomas is on pit road, and the engine is off. We're understanding there may be a possibility that Haley Thomas has encountered an engine failure, and that was an unfortunate deal. Correction, the engine is back on, but nope, now it's back off again. Jim Porter tells me there's something just not starting, so they're bringing out the starter. They're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Now, one of the things that makes this track very unique about the way lap traffic is handled is you'll notice there are a few individual cars coming by, and then at some points there are these packs. When they start running into lap traffic, they're in packs, sometimes going 2, possibly 3 wide. What makes it difficult on a track like this is that when you're going into turn number 1 and 2, remember it's 70 feet wide through turns 1 and 2. They can run as many as 4 wide if they want to going into turn 2. But as soon as you get down the back straightaway and you head down to turn 3, you are going literally from 70 down to 40 feet. That means as soon as you get into turn number 3, you have to be single file. If you're not single file down there, you're going to find yourself in the outside retaining wall. What we're seeing a lot of as we get set to complete lap number 30 is that there's a lot of, and we have a spin on the racetrack, but unfortunately, luckily, he gathered it back up. Believe it or not, it was Petway Jr. actually. James Petway Jr. literally almost spun him and gathered it back up. Boy, how he managed to do that with cars on his in and outside. Boy, what a save by Petway. His car was sideways going into turn number 1, and he got the right side of his car was almost off the ground, and he somehow managed to save it. Boy, this man has learned from his father. James Petway Sr., who's been racing in this series since 1999, has taught an awful lot to his son about what to do, and we just saw a pass literally right in front of us on the main straightaway as Petway Sr. gets around the lap car of Shinjay Yakamoto. So it looks like Shinjay Yakamoto has gone a lap down. Obviously, with the pit stop earlier, that's sort of the thing. Now, that's one thing I got to say about these drivers. They're hoping for a caution flag. If you're a lap down and you're way back in the field in about 26th, 27th, 28th position, you're looking for a caution flag because you want that valuable track position. However, if you're the leader, if you're James Petway Sr., you're saying, no, I don't want that because at this particular juncture, I'm just going to simply ride, because as long as I can keep these lap cars, keep them, picking them up and putting them down, I'll be able to get away from the second place car, which, by the way, he's managed to do. Gary Pritchett has not been able to get away from him in the last little bit. One of the things we've also seen here just now is Haley Thomas, as I was correct, is out of the race. Now, Jim Porter did talk to her from the garage area. She tells us that the ignition went out on her car. So that's unfortunate news for Haley Thomas. One of the things we're watching here as we get ready to complete 37 laps, actually, correction, 38 at the line, is there's been an awful lot of discussion about this stock block engine and why they chose to use this one instead of the proven turbocharged engines that they normally use. But this particular track does not lend itself to the speeds that the particular vehicles running the turbochargers runs. And so you need a car that is built for this type of track, and that's why they picked they picked that. And so in the interest of safety, that's one reason why you see these normally aspirated V8 stock blocks racing around here better than 180 miles an hour, but they do a lot. But trust me, it's closer to 215 mile an hour with a twin turbo. In the interest of safety, at least during race pace, when they checked in practice, race speeds were down to 154 miles an hour, which is a lot safer if you think about it, based on the dimensions of this track. Like I told you, it's 40 feet wide in 3 and 4, where it's 70 feet wide in 1 and 2. With some of those cars, if you get in there too quickly, boy, especially going wide open, you actually have to brake with these cars going into 3 and 4 because of the narrower, and by the way, they're sharper turns than 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are kind of weak turns. In other words, they're sort of an easy, just kind of ease into the corner, and then you get off the throttle once you go down, or you get off the the steering wheel and let the car carry itself down the backstretch. But when you get into 3 and 4, you're looking at corners that literally you have to just sort of dive into. You can't just take the corners and sort of gently go into the corner. You've got to actually hustle that car into the corner. And the way these guys are hustling the cars around right now, the fact we've had no yellow flags as we're up to 42 laps at this point tells me we're really, really setting a very torrid pace right now, and a completely just amazing set of circumstances at this particular juncture. What I'm looking at right now as we look at the field as it's coming by is just the lap traffic that you expect at this juncture is absolutely just surprising. Well, it looked like we had a crash in the back, but the crash is actually more on pit road as two cars were going into the garage area at the same time. It was cars, it was actually, oh boy, father and daughter aren't going to be happy with each other. The two Japanese drivers, Shinjei Yakamoto and Suki Yakamoto, are both out, and here's why. When they came down to the pit road, both of them were experiencing smoke out of the back of their car. The only problem with the car of Shinjei's car was actually would have been able to continue, except until his right rear clipped the left front of Suki Yakamoto's car and made contact, but it wasn't, purposeful contact. As it appears, his car, the suspension broke on his car, so if it wasn't for the suspension, they could have fixed the problem with his car. Now, on the other hand, Suki Yakamoto is out because now, due between the damage and the engine fire that nearly erupted out of the back of her car, that's why she's out, although we are told that he is still staying in his driver's suit in case he has to take over for another car, as is she, so we'll see what happens with that. But boy, that was a close call. We're up to lap number 46 as we're looking at this impressive show of talent. Boy, one thing, and I wish we had our other mics working because we could get Jess on the horn with this, but I've seen, one thing we've seen, and we saw it at Iowa Speedway with the Indy cars in 2023. Just because you're the leader and you've got a huge lead does not mean that the race is secure with just, in this case, 47, now 48, soon to be 48 laps complete. You're going to run into traffic, and at one point or another, there's going to be a point where if you make a pit stop or you have a bad pit stop, it's going to probably fall back on you to try to figure out how to fix this. And it appears, obviously, that what we're looking at is, this could be a very interesting thing here that we got to watch, and close to sort of what we've seen before as they spread out. Boy, I'll tell you what, one of the things that we spread, and we got a caution flag about ready to come out, and it looks like with 49 laps complete out of the 200, I believe we got a caution flag, and from what I understand, it is because a car is stopped in the middle of the back straightaway, and it appears to be James Petway Jr. I don't know how. I don't know what. But what I do know is the caution is out for his stalled car in turn number 2, actually off turn 2, down that kind of short and narrow back straightaway, and that is what's put us under the caution flag for the first time as they get ready to complete lap number 50. Boy, it took a little bit for the cars to slow down, and we'll have pit stops momentarily, or will we? No, we will not. The cars are staying out, although Petway Jr. faked like he wanted to go in. But I don't think he's going to go into the pit road. He's basically kind of sitting there saying, yeah, it looks like I want to come in, but guess what? I'm not going to. Sort of something that he's known for doing, faking him out a little bit when he can, if he can, to avoid the kind of masquerade of trouble that likes to erupt sometimes. So we'll see what he ends up with. The car's off the track. And as quickly as the caution flag came out, we're already with 1 lap to go before they get the green flag. 51 are about to be complete at the line. And this goes to show you guys just how quickly the cleanup crew was out there on James Petway Jr. His car is out. Boy, oh boy, you think about it, folks, and that's got to be a huge disappointment if you're James Petway Jr. Because your car was doing so good. He was handling the traffic well. He just wasn't able to do what Petway Sr. was able to do. And unfortunately, that didn't mean that the race was over for him, but it meant that he was literally going to be having to do with a little bit more than I think he wanted to. But the unfortunate part about it is his car is out. The pace car is about ready to come onto pit road. We're about to see the green flag. James Petway, Kerry Pritchett on the front row as the green flag comes out. 2 wide restart. And oh my goodness, a pack of about literally all of the cars that are remaining on the racetrack going into turn number 1. Boy, they better be careful going into turn number 3. James Petway is not getting away from Kerry Pritchett, though. It's a side-by-side battle back to the line. Here comes Kerry Pritchett on the inside. Petway on the outside. Petway just sort of being dogged as they head back to turn. So now 53 complete. We're going to be getting to lap number 54 here momentarily. We'll keep him going. So lap number 54 on the board right about now with Pritchett and Petway going side by side into turn 1. Boy, they're really letting it hang out down the back straightaway. Now they curve off. They break for 3 and 4. It is an absolute hornet's nest as they go into the corner. We're looking at what could be a really close position. And oh boy, this is just crazy, folks. You're watching, and Pritchett and half of the field is so close together. 56 laps about to be complete. Boy, the first half of the race, or first quarter point of this race, they were literally dogging each other tooth and tongue. But these drivers don't even want to separate from each other. We're looking at a pack that's literally just been stuck together pretty much since the restart. Now this is interesting, as the first portion, the first quarter, we watched it get really spread out. 57 laps about to be complete. 57 right now. James Pritchett, James Petway, boy, the rest of the field is just still stuck in a pack, boy. I tell you what, these guys certainly don't want to get away from each other, that's for sure. I'll tell you what, if this was a vacation, they'd be inviting each other to Vegas, that is for sure. Here comes Pritchett on the inside, Petway on the outside. They're going to run side by side into turn number 1, but except Petway does get the advantage about 2 or 3 car lengths, separating Petway from Pritchett. Now they go into turn number 3, back to turn number 4. Now we got a car basically going sideways. No, we do not. Here comes Pritchett on the inside, and Pritchett has already gotten around Petway, we're understanding, because Petway is still trying to fight back on the inside going into turn number 2, but there is no coverage in turn 2. In fact, has to go back into single file. Petway does. He tries to make a move. It is hard to pass, especially because turn 3 is such a narrow turn. These guys are some of these guys are making passes in the corners, though. Part of it is they're setting them up in turn 2 and passing them on the back straightaway, which means they can single file them out. But boy, as we get close to 62 out of 200 complete, we're literally looking at the potential that this could be a very close battle. Boy, Petway and Pritchett, as they get to 62 complete. They've already passed 62, so they're going to get to 63 momentarily. Pritchett and Petway going side by side. Turn number 3, Petway on the inside, Pritchett on the outside. Pritchett trying to hold off Petway, but it's not working. Matter of fact, just like has been happening since the restart, these guys are still stuck together. Boy, I don't know what happened between the green flag, the last green flag run, and this one, but boy, they're closing up on each other's back wheel right now. Petway gets a move on the inside. Now takes it to the outside. Boy, they are absolutely dogging each other going into turn number 1 and 2. Pritchett tries the inside, doesn't work. Goes in the outside, doesn't work. Heads to turn 3. Still can't make the move. Stuck on the inside. Has to go back single file, but then hits the main straightaway and gets ready to make a move. And sets up Petway beautifully going down the main straightaway into turn number 1, but just can't make the pass. Petway got around her again. Pritchett tried to make a move on the outside, but just flat couldn't do it. Petway tries it again, going into turn number 3. Pritchett back down the main straightaway again. Pritchett takes the move. High side, back, low side, back, high side, and oh my goodness, you want to talk about something that just about was a near miss right on the main straightaway, and I'm not kidding you folks, when they came down the main straightaway, instead of 4 wide, we just saw a pack that went 5 wide down the main straightaway. Dangerously close racing at the back of the pack. The front group is starting to finally get a little bit of separation here, but not a whole lot. Petway and Pritchett side by side. We're going to see how that pans out. As a matter of fact, not anymore. Pritchett says, guess what? I got the lead. You don't, Petway. And Petway is going to find out real quick what happens. So KP and JP doing battle back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But back down the main straightaway, here they come. Petway and Pritchett, but boy, we also need to look back for the battle for 7th because as a couple of drivers did change during the prior green flag, so we do want to look at and note a couple of driver changes. J. McKay, however, was not one of them to change rides, but James Parker has climbed into the backup car for car 17 as an alternate, so he's actually doing alternate driving now at car 17, and he's moved up to the back of the field, got his lap back, and absolutely is hustling. So look for J.J. McKay. He's in the battle for 7th place right now with Wally Perez, and Wally Perez is the guy who took over. Well, a lot of drivers took over for a lot of drivers. That's why we have not been able to give you a scoring report, because a whole lot of changes took place here as we're going. But Wally Perez now in that number 18 car, correction, 81 car, and Wally Perez is having his hands full with J.J. McKay, and I don't even know if that, how in the world that could have happened so quickly, but boy, did J.J. McKay make a move that's going to, oh boy. Meanwhile, we need to look at the battle for 3rd as it appears. Nope, I stand corrected. Not for long. Pass for 3rd, too. And that also a couple of alternate drivers, too. Stacy Davis and Tracy McAllister. That's the battle for 3rd. And again, we're going side by side. Meanwhile, Kerry Pritchett says, see you later, to the tune of a 5-car length advantage, as we come up on the 70 lap mark. As a matter of fact, 72 laps are now about to be complete as we speak right now. 72 laps. Boy, these, you know, it must be disconcerting when you think about it to be the guy in the lead, or the girl, depending on who's leading, and to, in the prior green flag, you had no answer for the 2nd place car. Or the 2nd place car had no answer for you. But then you go on a restart and you just get snookered 8 different times in between 8 different laps. The lead just swapping back and forth, back and forth. But then, here's another surprise. Prior, we'd be this far into the green flag run and the field would already be split so far apart that we'd already be lapping, but we're not lapping at this point. The cars with 75 laps complete are literally currently, I mean, they are just on top of each other's hip pockets. Boy, you couldn't throw a blanket between them if you wanted to. I mean, that's just literally how close they are. One of the things that we would like to do is also say hello to our friends listening. If you're listening to us in Honolulu, Hawaii, Arima, Trinidad, if you're listening to us in Kingston, Jamaica, if you're listening to us in Port St. Lucie, Florida, or if you're listening to us in Denver, Colorado, if you're listening to us in Richmond, Virginia, or Palmyra, Virginia. So wherever you're listening to us, if you're watching us, please know you are watching or listening rather to a doozy. No video, audio only, as for the channel title, Blinded by Brandon. If you like what you hear, hit the like and the subscribe button. In the meantime, whatever you do, don't drive like these guys out here on the track. We've literally got about a 6-car length lead now for Kerry Pritchett over James Petway, and I stand corrected. That gap has closed tremendously. That gap on the front field, and it's starting to get to the point now where when the cars are in turn 2, the lead cars, that the back half of the field is already still going down the main straightaway. So it won't be long before we start to see probably a little bit of lapping, but I think it's going to be closer to lap number 100 before we start to see that. We're already on lap number 82 at the, or correction, 81, now 82 at the line. And Pritchett and Petway are just not getting away from each other. Boy, this has been a absolute just back and forth seesaw battle that just, if you think about it, they're close together. They're trying to lock horns. They're trying to go side by side. Nobody really pushing too much. But the outside move is sort of the brilliant one coming into the corner. We're looking at a side-by-side battle now. Back for the lead again. Here's Pritchett on the outside, but can't make the pass. Petway's really just got to making it hard for Pritchett to go anywhere with this car. But I'll tell you what, the closest move that Pritchett's been able to make has been closer to the inside, but not going to happen that long as they go down the corner now. It's going to be side-by-side as we get close to looking at the at what appears to be the close run. But now we're looking at a very fast-paced move here going into the corner. Pritchett just absolutely not able to get away from Petway as we look at the back half of the field, just still doing battle. Boy, they're hustling. They're trying not to go a lap down, but they're also starting to fall away from the back half of the field is starting to lose that front group, so that the cars are kind of split into packs right now, and that's sort of making it a little interesting, to say the least, for these cars. There is word, by the way, that we will be covering, hopefully next week, depending on how things go, the Missouri Valley road course invite. We'll talk a little bit about that perhaps later. If we don't talk about it now, we'll talk about it when we do it. We also want to remind you from our prior videos, families need your help. If you notice your children or your child being bullied, please make sure to take action. If you see something, say something. Bullying is not acceptable, should never be tolerated, and is one of the main causes of mental health difficulties. So it is important to make sure that you keep that in mind. As we look at this battle for the lead, Carrie Pritchett, as we get to the point of the 90 lap mark, she's already coming down the main straightaway with a trunk full of James Petway. And, you know, we're talking about the battle for the lead, but boy, there's just battles all over the racetrack. Looking at them side by side, it just absolutely is impressive as the field comes down the main straightaway, and we are watching a very close event here. You know, as I look at the pack, literally, I'm looking at close to a 3 to 4 wide, it looks like in certain cases, but then they just funnel it back out. Meanwhile, Pritchett still can't get away from Petway. In fact, Petway has closed up on Pritchett. Remember that lead earlier that we talked about? Not to be. 4 car lengths the differential. In fact, no, I stand corrected, down to 2 car lengths literally as they go into turn number 3, and then it goes back up to about 3 or 4. But as they come down the main straightaway, it is just such a close battle. You can't, I mean, can you believe that as close as they're going to each other at this particular juncture? It is a close battle. We're looking at the front half of the field and the back half of the field just sort of closing in side by side. It is a close match to what we've seen already before, but boy, they can't seem to stay. They just seem to be right on the cusp of trying to stay kind of within close shot of each other, and it's a very close move. Pritchett, Petway side by side through turn 1. They're going to go high, they're going to go low, both of them following each other in each other's tire tracks through turn 2. Now into turn number 3. Pritchett and Petway still side by side. They can't seem to manage to pull off, but lap traffic is certainly not going to be a factor right now as we come up on the 100 lap mark. We're already at lap 101. That would mean that if we had weather, it'd be an official race. But meanwhile, the field is still kind of making for a really, really nice run here going into turn 1 and 2. Now we look at Pritchett. Petway is actually pulling up on the pops to the outside. Can't seem to make the pass. Heads back and thinks better of it. Turn number 2. Gonna try again. Meanwhile, a car came past us with another car right in their hip pocket toward the back of the field. Boy, they're just busting tail trying to stay on the lead lap, but they're also getting real close. Meanwhile, Pritchett and Petway dogging each other. They can't seem to separate. The distance and the gap is just absolutely closed up, and I mean to tell you, there's just a real close move. Petway certainly not thinking about anything particular but a pass, and into the corner they go. Side by side, actually. Sorry for that, folks. Going into turn number 1 and 2 as we get close to lap number 104, and I just watched a car get real close to the outside wall and almost touch wheels going into turn number 1 as they came real close. Kerry Pritchett, James Petway on each other's hip pockets. They're trying each other again in turn 1. Talk about an area code of their own. They've broken away from the third place car by almost a full second, but that doesn't deter from the fact that the third place car, which actually happens to be Wally Perez, who's been moving up to the field, is also dealing with some heat. And would you believe who's doing that? The fourth place car, folks, is J.J. McKay. J.J. McKay has absolutely just been absolutely on the pocket of Perez. Now goes to the inside of Perez, makes a bold close-up move, but isn't going to get anywhere. His distance back to him is about the same as the distance from from Pritchett back to Petway. Now, we do apologize for the voice, folks, so hopefully we'll be able to hold out the whole 200 laps. We're looking at lap number 106. Correction, 108. My timing and scoring loop, folks, is a little off here, and it looks like it... Correction, 109. 109. We had a car almost brush the wall, and it was at the back of the field. It looks like it was at the back of the field. Now, there are some cars separating from the rest of the pack, and we're looking at a potential close run here as we get to lap number 110. Kerry Pritchett is just flat out having a field day. She cannot keep away from James Petway, who's pulling up on her rear bumper. And I mean to tell you, when I say she's pulling up, she is absolutely just about to give everything she can handle. Here comes Pritchett. Petway inside, Pritchett outside, 3 wide, or correction, 2 wide into the corner. You gotta try to go single file into turn 3. They will go single file into turn 3, but that doesn't mean that Pritchett isn't gonna try it again. Coming down the main straightaway, Petway and Pritchett are literally locked horn to horn, and I mean to tell you, when I say it's not even a car length, we can measure it in 10,000ths of a second. Or thousandths of a second, looking at about 43 thousandths of a second here separating the first 2. Now, literally, as they come down the main straightaway, literally less than that. Less than a tenth of a second at this particular point. Less than a tenth of a second separating them as they head through turn number 3. But boy, they better be careful going into 3 and 4 because this could be dangerous. Petway and Pritchett. Perez and McKay. McKay trying to take third. Petway trying to take first. And oh boy, did they ever get up on each other. The back half of the field did. We had 2 cars that literally just about got in and about hip checked each other. Oh boy, the battle for the lead. Pritchett is still on the back bumper. How do you do, Kerry Pritchett? You're trying to hold off one of the biggest guns and is doing a fabulous job, but is the wily veteran going to get her? We're looking at exactly 118 laps complete. Perez inside as well as McKay. Not going to work. McKay on the inside. Perez on the outside. Perez trying to get the pass made, but McKay cannot cannot quite make it stick either. Meanwhile, back to the battle for the lead. The battle for the lead looks like it's going to be Pritchett still hanging on to that lead. But for how long? Pritchett is trying to get around. I wouldn't even say a car length. I'm looking literally their fenders. If they are not touching, I don't know how. Bonsai move going into turn number 3. Can Petway make the move coming down the straightaway? Not quite, but they go into turn number 1 and 2. They are nearly side by side. How do you do going down that back straightaway? Meanwhile, Perez and McKay also side by side. That's for the 3rd position. You know, McKay wants to get on the podium because McKay, this is his first race back since 2005. So this is actually just a second here. The 24 car, which is Hamilton, literally just got black flagged for hip checking the 19 car of Bolaro. And that was, we're looking at the replay of that. And that was a big move. Meanwhile, for the lead, going into turn 1 and 2, and it appears that Petway has got it. James Petway literally made a bonsai move down the main straightaway. James Petway, I am telling you, this guy is hooked up. He literally just about hit. J.J. McKay is taking Perez too. J.J. McKay is taking Walter Perez, but guess what? There are groups of 2 cars, at least 4 groups of 2 within about a second of each other. We're starting to see cars just in groups of 2 just latching onto each other. McKay is not getting away from Perez. Petway's not getting away from Pritchett. Holy mackerel, the closeness of these cars. And I'm telling you, it's not a matter of large packs like we had at the restart. This is a matter of, as we get close to 122 laps complete, the fact that we're literally looking at a potential for a very, very close finish. By the way, pit stops will be getting underway momentarily, and we understand there's a caution flag on the racetrack. Number 4, Mike Hamilton has managed to club the outside wall, and he did so. It was a hard hit, but he gets out of the car. He's under his own power as the caution flag comes out. He's got the window net up, and his car is out. But boy, there was a bit of green. There was engine smoke too, so it looks like he may have blown an engine before he popped the outside wall. His left rear tire is also askew on the left side and shredded, but it is askew on that left-hand side. So now he's going to have to that left rear tire. They're going to have to get him on the pit road. In fact, the crew was radioing to him saying, "Hey, you've got smoke coming out of your car," and he didn't think much of it. He said, "I felt the vibration, but I didn't know what was happening." He figured maybe it was just a handling problem, but as it turns out, his engine let go, and it let go right in front of us here on the main straightaway. So the car is actually on the hook. So now we have 124 laps complete, 124 out of 200. Now, one of the things I want to ask, I'm going to try to pull this as close to Jess as we can. We're getting so close to the finish. I'm telling you something. If Pritchett really wants to win over Petway, she's going to have to be a little bit more bold than letting him pass her right when they get close to lap traffic. What's your thoughts on so far what we've seen?
Yeah, she's going to have to be careful while doing it, but she's going to have to get further away from him than just a little bit. It's going to have to be at least 2 or 3 cars away.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're literally going to be looking at here as we get closer to the finish of this one. I'm telling you right now, as we get close to now, we have 125 laps complete. The pit stops are underway. All cars have been in and out, and Pritchett came out in the lead, so I wonder what that's going to mean for James Petway, because James Petway normally is the guy when he comes in. He didn't come out. Actually, he did. James Petway came out. The guy that didn't come out very well for that was Wally Perez. Wally Perez's car is still sitting on pit road with the hood up, and it appears they're looking at the engine cowling. They're taking the cowling off. The engine cowling is coming off the car. He is getting out of the car, and they're pushing him back to the garage area. So Wally Perez, who took over for Robbie Fox as an alternate driver, and they're saying that the engine itself, the ignition, another ignition failure. Wow, that is 2 cars already. I believe that's 2 cars that have dropped out now due to ignition failure. Of course, we had Haley Thomas earlier drop out for the same reason, and now she really was excited about this event and her first event. Michelle Vantois is actually in the field. Vantois is actually running in the 18th position, and we understand that he has received a black flag for potentially speeding on pit road. The speed limit, in case you wonder, is 100 miles an hour, but as he did not respond to the black flag, they're going to give him he's been assessed and received a stop-and-go penalty. And at this racetrack, you cannot afford a stop-and-go penalty. He goes into his pit, the wheels stop turning, the official waves him out, so he is, with 127 laps complete, going to be off as we speak. The cars are coming around. Of course, we are going to, again, remind you, we're under the caution flag because of an accident earlier that involved a very, very quick speed. And I'm telling you right now, folks, and we're going to tell you something at this point. Mike Hamilton managed to make a very evasive move going into turn number 2, and we're looking at the replay, and oh my, it is a surprise his car didn't get airborne as he went sideways into turn 2 when that accident happened, and I'm not convinced his car wasn't below the white line when he got into the corner. So that's something that the race control is going to have to take a look at to figure out how the accident took place. And as it turns out, as he's told our Jim Porter just now, his car literally lost his suspension broke. And what occurred, he literally lost the ability to turn the car. As he turned his car left, his car didn't want to turn, and it just went straight into the wall going into turn number 2. Boy, that is a bad, bad break for a guy who he was already penalized 2 positions for avoidable contact on the racetrack after he hip checked the number 19 car of Buddy Molaro, but then he ends up crashing anyway. So Hamilton's out. Molaro is actually out of the car too, because it apparently appears his right front tire has been shredded, but that's not the reason he's out of the car. He's out of the car because apparently his engine has expired. Boy, it's been a tough. That's the 3rd engine now that's expired, and the 2nd one just under this caution flag. We're getting ready to complete 128 laps. We're going to see 1 more lap around, and then the field will be coming down the main straightaway. As a matter of fact, nope, the flag stand, they just gave us 1 to go. The pace car has got the lights out, which means we're going to go back to green this time by. The track cleanup is complete on the main straightaway where that vicious crash took place. Of course, Mike Hamilton is out of the car and is okay, has been treated and released from the infield medical center, and is, in fact, as a matter of fact, as I told our Jim Porter in the garage area, that his car literally just the suspension broke, and that's a couple of cars with suspension failures already. The field is getting ready to go back under green flag. Wally Perez is out. We're going to find out why here in a few minutes, but in the meantime, the green flag is out, and I believe we've got a race already developing for the lead as Carrie Pritchett is literally getting stalked by James Petway going into turn number 1. That's 129 complete. She is pulling up on the rear bumper, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, she is hanging on. Correction, he is pulling up on her rear bumper, but guess what? Pritchett's hanging on. She is driving defensive. Boy, I tell you what, hats off to Carrie Pritchett, because that move that she just had almost made on her into turn number 1 was a doozy of a move, and it's a typical Petway move. Every restart at every track, you see him dart to the inside, and he makes this bonsai move where he'll try to literally gas it a little early going into the corner, and he did that in going into turn number 1 and almost got Pritchett at the apex of turn 1, but that didn't exactly pay off. Pritchett beat him at his own game, and Very, very rare for the Nebraska native to get stalked like that. So I guess Carrie Pritchett's playing. She's not even a car length. Let me tell you something. These cars are in a draft. Literally, they're holding each other's back bumpers. Pritchett, Petway, McKay, who's in third. Boy, he is getting dogged, but McKay doesn't care. He's hanging on to third beautifully. Boy, that's a guy who, I tell you what, J.J. McKay is trying to pass James Petway, who's trying to pass Kerry Pritchett. I'm not sure I like the way that's going to go with 132 complete or 133 complete, because what I look at is how close they are in match. Now, again, these are fresh tires. These guys are on fresh tires, and they're getting real close. But McKay almost got into the wall, managed to save it. How do you do going into turn number 2? I'm telling you, look at the replay of that. Boy, he got side by side, and oh my goodness gracious, Jess is looking at the replay saying, oh, how did they not crash? I am telling you, that was, I have seen that a lot tonight. There's been a lot of times where these guys are on each other's hip pockets, and they're trying side by side again through turn number 2. They know they got to signal back out in turn number 3. They're single file again in 3. Come back to turn number 4, back out of the main straightaway. Here they come again. Here's Petway trying to get the move side by side. Can he pass Pritchett? No, he cannot. Neither can McKay get past either by Malaro Jr., Buddy Malaro Jr. There's 2 Buddy Malaros in the field on this one. The alternate is his son, Buddy Malaro Jr., and Malaro Jr. is trying to get around McKay, and it's just not working because McKay keeps holding them off. But now they're starting to get some separation from at least the 5th place car, but packs are starting to form. Now we got about 3 separate packs at this particular juncture as we speak. Right now we're getting close to 137 laps complete. And here comes James Petway on the inside of Pritchett. Pritchett trying to hold off the position, getting into turn number 1. Now going to try it again in turn number 2, but the white line is not opened up at this particular point. Now they get back, they're trying it again, and they're going to think better of it going to turn number 3, single file, headed down to turn number 3, into turn number 4. Now it's going to be Pritchett going to the inside, Petway to the outside, close as far as you can get him. And here's Pritchett, Petway, and McKay, and oh my goodness, there were 5 wide on the back of the pack. How they didn't crash, I have no idea. We saw this on the last restart when the back of the pack, boy, they really don't like to get put a lap down, so they do everything they can to avoid literally getting just stomped on, and they went 5, no, make it 6 wide. According to what I saw, I misread that I'm looking at the replay, they're 6 wide, or were 6 wide, going into the corner. That is not something you normally see on a track like this. 50 feet wide on the straightaway, 70 foot wide in turns 1 and 2. Pritchett has gotten ahead a little bit, but Petway just cannot get around Pritchett. If I'm, let me ask you this: if you're James Petway, are you frustrated right now that you can't get around Pritchett, or are you thinking strategy at this point? How are you going to get around?
Strategy, but also the car. For me, it'd be trying to do both.
One of the things I think we've also got to look at is that Petway knows that her tires are a smidgen newer than his, but he still is looking at the fact that this may be his last year in the series, and so he wants to get a win on his. And he does. He's got to be careful to conserve his tires as we get to 140 complete. We are actually on 140 complete this time by, and as a matter of fact, one of the things I can tell you right now, the last place car in this pack is actually by their lonesome. Nobody behind them. Boy, that's a lonesome feeling when you're in the back of the pack, and that's actually the case right now for Kelly Anderson, who is the driver that took over. A lot of alternate drivers in the field, and we will give you the top 4 finishing orders only, guys, because of the fact that they have not, or at least the top 3 only, because they have not changed drivers. So many driver changes, it'll be hard to keep up with the number of people changing. Right now I'm looking at James Petway, but we'll keep you abreast of anything that happens on track with the alternate drivers, of course, as we go. And we're looking at as we get ready to 145 laps complete. You know, as we get close to 146, here's what's really drawing my attention to this right now. As we get close to 146, we are literally 54 laps from the finish right now. 140 as of right now, 146 complete. When I watch Carrie Pritchett go into turn 1 with James Petway as close as they're running, Pritchett is this is her first ever race at all. Her absolute first ever race, and she is driving on the wild side like she has been doing this a long time, and she is just impressing the masses, and in fact, so much so that Petway is almost afraid to pass her. Now, normal, and I don't mean, except for Petway did a daring move, and did he get a black? No, he just got contacted by race control. He almost put his car below the white line. You don't want all 4 tires below the white line. They try to tell the drivers, do not let your cars get below the white line, and he almost did. Boy, that was a close call. A near disaster for James Petway. Boy, we're watching this. You know, it's really close. We're looking at Petway at the 21, and that would be the car. Now, of course, remember the 21 car. That's not McKay. That is, let's see, who is the 21 car? Buddy Milaro Jr. received a black flag, but it's not like the black flag's going to matter anyway. He's got smoke coming out of the back of his car. We've had another problem going on here. Engine after engine here, and it is the Ford engine belonging, of course, to Buddy Milaro Jr. that just went and expired. Boy, that's a tough break if you're if you know you already received the black flag for blocking as he tried to fend off J.J. McKay, but that gave J.J. McKay the 3rd position as Petway went around Pritchett. How do you do? We just saw that coming down the main straightaway. Petway is holding no prisoners right now. James Petway has not been to victory lane since 2019. He wants a piece of victory, and he hasn't been to victory at this track since 2019. Of course, they didn't run it in 2020, 21, 22, or 23. They came back in 24. Petway finished 13th. Last year, he finished in the 26th position after crashing out. So Petway's had some struggles here at this track, but apparently that's not the case in this case. Him and Carrie Pritchett doing battle side by side. But you know what? You got to hand it to Pritchett. She made a really good move. And you know the nice thing is, she did the sportsman thing. When Petway got on the inside and knew he was going to pass her, she went on the outside, tried to hold the line, but let him have the line, knowing that she will have another opportunity. We've got 154 laps complete. So 46 laps to go. That is a very sportsmanlike move for a first-time driver. The race controller said no more driver changes unless absolutely necessary, as a matter of fact. That's the way they worded it. Chase Rodriguez has said that at race control, no more driver changes. Some of the drivers are separated by very, very short packs, and we're seeing packs of 2 that are just absolutely obliterating each other. The front 3 cars are really close together, though. And one of the things I'm going to tell you, J.J. McKay is going to end up on the podium. I can already tell you this already with 44 to go. And, I mean, these laps click off in a hurry under green flag condition. As you know, this is a bull ring. This is literally probably about as close to Richmond, Virginia as you're going to get as far as racetracks are concerned. And these guys are... Here's the thing that really catches my attention, folks. The side-by-side, the 2 wide, the 3 wide, we had 5 wide down the main straightaway. Boy, this couldn't have gotten any better. And Pritchett has not been able to let Petway get away. And Petway really is not liking this. I mean, but you got to think about it. First-time driver, usually you're thinking first-time driver going to hang back a little bit, maybe run in the back of the field, try to, you know, feel out your race car, see if you can You know, make passes, be passed, know what it's like to be passed in traffic, see how you do in traffic. Not Carrie Pritchett. She's just absolutely been standing on the throttle, making sure Petway knows she's right there and is ready to pounce at any minute. As a matter of fact, as she's been coming by the main straightaway, I've been noticing she's extremely close, and that real closeness is what's made things absolutely just incredible. And you know, you look at the record books for James Petway. In his 27 years of racing, or his 28 years, you know, considering 1999, in his 27 years of racing in this series, he has had, in that span of time, 47 top 10 finishes in his career. He's had more wins, though, than any of the active drivers, but his most famous win, of course, came in 1999 in his first year at the Guernsey, Wyoming Road Course Invite, where he made a daring pass on KJ Martin going side by side. They actually went wheel to wheel through a hairpin corner. Of course, remember, Guernsey, Wyoming's not that big. It's probably a town close to having about roughly 1,000 or so people in it. And on that area, the pass he made came right in front of the position on Idaho, right as he passed on the Idaho Street area, which was the main straightaway, and it was one of the most daring passes we'll remember for a very long time. James Petway, of course, making that daring pass. And we got to keep an eye on our battle for the lead, because why? Guess who's pulling up on James Petway again? How do you like me now? Carrie Pritchett coming up on the inside, and listen, she's not singing "Should Have Been a Cowboy," but I'll tell you what, as we come back to the straightaway, next verse, same as the first. Basically, Pritchett on the inside, Petway on the outside. That outside line hasn't treated Petway very well, so we'll see how this works going into turn one. Going into turn two, Pritchett hasn't quite passed yet, but the only thing that's really helping Petway right now hang on to the lead, which is by just barely anything, is the fact that the only reason that I can think of why this is working out for him so well is because in turn three, you cannot go side by side in turn three. When you get into turn three, you have to go single file because the track is narrow. So if they try to go too wide in turn three, they're looking at nearly crashing each other. And that's one of the things that literally could play into this. And that's one reason I think Pritchett's not making the move that close to turn three. Now, that doesn't mean she won't try it very often, but you have to go single file. The third place car of J.J. McKay is currently, a close third. J.J. McKay, close third right now as we speak, going into the corner. McKay makes his spotter told him watch his tires, because we're seeing a little bit of tire smoke coming from McKay's car. However, McKay's doing, for a guy with tire smoke coming out of the back of his car, you wouldn't know it. The way he's running, he looks like he's just on a Saturday afternoon drive. Of course, it's later in the day, Japan time. But here in the U.S., this would be a Saturday morning drive. Trust me, rush hour is not even as quick as these cars. Let me guarantee you that. As Pritchett and Petway do battle side by side going into, were side by side till they got to turn three, where Petway again, and they're getting closer and closer. That gap is getting so much closer. We are at lap number 166. That means we have 34 to go. Who's going to take this race? The question is who's going to make this a close battle. Lap number 166. And here's the thing that I'll tell you right now. Going to the line, it could be a close event. We're talking this could be one of the closest finishes in history. We'll see what happens what happens. Hopefully we don't get a caution flag, but that's not to say we won't, depending on what happens. McKay has been stalking the second place driver, Carrie Pritchett, but guess what? At the same time, he's doing so not realizing that while doing so, he's only just making it that much easier for her to pull up on the rear bumper of James Petway Sr. Because remember, Petway's tires, he only did a 2-tire stop where Kerry Pritchett did a 4-tire stop. Might that actually be the difference maker in this race? We're going to find out. On fuel, they're good. Nobody's had to make 2 pit stops, which is surprising in this particular race. Then again, it's not because of how many laps you can go. If we have an overtime situation, which this particular race does lend itself to the possibility of overtime, then we have a car heading in. Correction. No, that wasn't McKay. That was Buddy Malaro Jr. Malaro Jr.'s in with the right rear tire. No, that was not Malaro. That's Hamilton. Mark Hamilton, the brother to Mike Hamilton, and he's in the pit road. And boy, his car looks identical to J.J. McKay's, though, to be fair, so that's probably why it's hard to tell. And look at some of these cars coming down the main straightaway. When they were passing us just now, here is oh boy, Pritchett is getting closer, and I mean closer, to James Petway. We've got 170 complete. That means 30 to go. Is she going to be able to make her move? Can she make her move? She is close. She is pulling up on the rear bumper, and I mean to tell you, they haven't been touching yet, but it's just point after point, lap after lap. She gets a good run going into the turns and then has to back off into 3 and 4. Then comes back down the main straightaway. She is playing this to perfection. James Petway is sitting there looking in the back of his mirrors wondering if he's actually racing his former teammate KJ Martin, because this is shades of Guernsey, where KJ Martin just kept on hanging on when Petway joined, and Petway was that rookie who wanted to make that daring pass. Can the winning pass be made? Possibly in the corner. It's not something that we've seen before, but it may happen here as the field comes back down. Again, Pritchett on the inside, Petway on the outside. Petway dives back down low into turn 2. Still hasn't been able to get away from Pritchett. Pritchett tries the outside. Doesn't work. Goes into turn 3. They're single file again. Going into turn 3. Meanwhile, the back half of the field is headed to turn number 4. Or down the main street into turn number 1. But the front cars now headed back. Now they're headed to turn 1. And a close battle for position. Only a handful of cars have separated from the rest of the field that are running solo, but we're seeing packs of at least 2 or 3 cars running in this line. Meanwhile, here they come into the corner. Petway, McKay, Petway, Pritchett, McKay, and Castle are in that top 4, but look at McKay, who, let me tell you something, McKay is hanging on, or correction, McKay's back to 4th right now, trying to make a move for 3rd. He got drop kicked back to 4th on that tire problem, but then he got it sorted out. I think as it turns out, one nice thing about these cars, these guys have ways they can adjust the handling of the cars from inside the cockpit. That's one of the things that is really helpful. Very similar to IndyCar, but not entirely similar, because in this case, you also, by doing so, can adjust the back side of the car too, to make it look a little bit fancy schmancy. So that's exactly what McKay did. And McKay is on the back bumper. Oh my word. I'm not even sure. We're going to be looking at 2 battles simultaneously. Question is, which one do you want to look at first? I mean, throw a blanket over them. There's so many battles on the racetrack. And look at how close it is. McKay is pulling up on the bumper, but you got it, folks. I'm telling you, if you're looking in the stands, pay attention to Kerry Pritchett. She's making a big, big move. Kerry Pritchett has the lap car of Holly Anderson, who has been several laps down. By the way, Holly Anderson, who made this race her first year since 1999, when they raced the Omaha Speed Show for the stock cars. Holly Anderson is an impressive driver. Just hasn't been her day today, but she's just been floundering around. She's 4 laps down, but she's looking pretty racy, despite being 4 laps down after that long pit stop earlier, as James Petway and Carrie Pritchett are just absolutely holding on to each other's bumpers as we get to lap number 175, correction, 177. That means we have 23 laps to go. This race is looking like is looking like an absolute train wreck as we go into the corner. And how do you do? I mean, they're pulling up. I mean, it's almost like they're planning on this. They're looking for this. Holly Anderson at the very back of the field is the back marker they have to worry about, because she is actually the last place car. But guess what? She's not in the way right now. Still, Petway and Pritchett still have clean track in front of them. But believe it or not, when I'm saying they're close, like the last place car came by, you can read a short story. And the first, oh boy, folks, I'm not liking this one too much, because here's Pritchett on the inside, on the outside, now back inside at turn 3. Oh, you just can't do it too wide through turn 3, but she did it anyway. Or did she? No, she's still trying to pull up on the rear bumper. It's looking like an absolute showdown. Could she make the pass? I don't know. Pritchett and Petway still going side by side. Carrie Pritchett trying to move. And as a matter of fact, no. Matter of fact, the 6th and 7th place and 7th and 8th place cars just came by us. They were locked wheel to wheel. And the back of the pack locked wheel to wheel. Let's look at this front too. And believe me when I say this, in turn 2 is where Pritchett is closing in on Petway. Pritchett is trying everything she can. Turn 3, they're horn to horn, as it were, fender to fender, locked wheel to wheel, side to side. And would you believe, at the entrance of the main straightaway, Pritchett got the lead. Carrie Pritchett got the lead with 20 to go at the speedway. And how do you do? She is not going to pull away easily, but man, oh man, she made a daring pass at the exit of turn 4 where the track widens about 10 feet. And I mean to tell you, that is never a place to pass on this racetrack, because when you get into the main straightaway, you're only going about a 10-foot addition till you get to turn 1. But she said absolutely. Carrie Pritchett has now pulled away by almost a 1/10 of a second per lap. So she's really pulling away. The rest of the field, and they're already into lap traffic. Holly Anderson goes another lap down, but she just moved over. And the nice thing about these drivers is they're sportsmen. They're seeing drivers coming over. They're racing each other, but then they're moving over and giving these guys plenty of room to, kind of pass them. The hardest part is when you have to get down the main straightaway. It's a track that really lends itself to some craziness here. We're literally looking at the cars, and here we see Holly Anderson making her way to pit road, and I'm not sure I like what I see. It looks like the right side is wobbling on her car. She may have brushed the wall in turn 3. In fact, well, I've just checked the replay. It appears going into turn 3 that was it the right rear or the left front? It looks like the right rear that clubbed the outside retaining wall, and it wasn't a hard hit, but enough to knock the suspension askew on that right-hand side. So she's in the pits, and she's just going to go ahead and go back to the garage area, and why not? You only have about 15 laps to go, but she was 4 laps down when this incident happened. So, I mean, a lot of people would say probably the worst thing to do, you still want to go out and get points, but she is considering the situation very strongly, and I think that's a sportsmanlike move to say, hey, I don't think I could be a factor anymore, so we need to do this. We've got cars passing each other that are lap cars, literally on each other's bumpers in packs. We are looking, folks, at 10 laps to go at the line. Let's follow Carrie Pritchett as she goes into turn 1. Has a nice smooth line. Petway still behind her very closely. Makes a move as the lap cars around her. Gets real close up on the backside. Tries to get safe into turn 3 and 4. Literally comes back around. Carrie Pritchett still hanging on. By the way, J.J. McKay is back to 3rd, so he's going to get a podium finish as we speak. There are 9 laps to go. Into turn number 3. Pritchett trying to hold on. Can the fuel hold? She's looking really good right now. Petway, on the other hand, does he have enough? Can he catch? Hopefully we will not have a late caution, as happened at Guernsey in his first year. You don't want to have a win stolen from you by way of a caution flag either. The second race at Guernsey, Wyoming is a good example of that, when he literally got caught out in the middle of a race and lost it because of a caution flag and spun. But we were looking at another car coming into pit road, and a part of the sub-drivers. We have a long list of sub-drivers here. That is the alternates here that substituted before the substitution request was put in. One driver that came in was John Max Teixeira, and Teixeira came into the pit road and it appears may have stalled there at that location. They're reaching to try to get him back in and out. His tires went away on him is what we're led to understand. Ariana Fisher and Lisa Katera and Katera Carroll, all 3 of those cars also went into pit road earlier, and that means we've got 8 laps to go, folks. 8 to go, and matter of fact, that's now soon to be 7 to go. We have literally watched a clinic by 2 drivers. Let's keep in mind that James Parker is out of the race because of an accident, or because of an incident earlier. His car basically, he had problems. Haley Thomas finished out because of a mechanical problem with the ignition. We had 2 ignition failures. Mike Hamilton, I believe, was the one who caused the caution flag earlier. He had problems with his suspension, but we had 2 mechanical failures. Buddy Millar, or Wally Perez actually was the other one with the ignition problem. As they, if I remember properly, we'll have to keep track of that. I believe it was Wally Perez who had the ignition problem. We're looking at 5 laps to go. Can Carrie Pritchett become the first female driver to win a Sports Fan Infield Series racing event? She is currently 5 laps away from realizing a dream that she will have had her first race, possibly her first win. The crowd is on their feet. We're looking at it too, folks. 4 to go. The flagman holding up 4 fingers. Casey McCall, the flagman, holding up 4 fingers to say, you got 4 to go. And her crew, led by crew chief Bethany Peterson Jr., is happy as a lark right now on the pit road. And James Ronaldo, the tire changer, who's also radioing, is saying, keep this up, keep this up. Of course, the spotters are back and forth letting her know about lap cars as she goes by them, but she has 3 laps to go. I wouldn't bet anything at this point. I think Petway has lost any opportunity to. Petway is running down to the white line. Matter of fact, Petway is no, he's actually on track. The issue may be with the 18 car. The 18 alternate, and that car is Ariana Fisher. Ariana Fisher is back in. Meanwhile, with 2 laps to go at this track, we're looking at a possibility of a history-making day, a history-making race, and a history-making surprise. Carrie Pritchett goes into turn number 3 with lap cars on either side of her. James Petway behind her. James Petway literally waving a congratulatory handshake at her through the cockpit of his car. He is smiling. He may be finishing second, but he likes this. The white flag is out. Carrie Pritchett on her way through turn 1, through the entrance at turn number 2, down the short back stretch, down to the thin part of the egg in turn 3. She can coast home from here. Nobody's going to catch her. Headed down to the line. The twin checkers are out, and Carrie Pritchett has won the infield 200. And oh my goodness, what a story. Carrie Pritchett, listen, all you ladies stand up and give a loud, heroic cheer for a woman who really didn't even know what was going to happen when she got into the series. The cars are all coming down the pit road, several of them laps down. But oh my goodness, what a finish, what a finish, what a finish. Carrie Pritchett has made history and has won the infield 200, the 200 lap event that we were talking about, that was going to be the very, very interesting pinnacle. A driver we didn't even know was coming in. We were told there would be surprises, and what a story. And a storybook finish. You couldn't have asked for a better finish. The winning move coming with literally almost 25 to go, when she made a move and a pass going through turn number 4 that, quite honestly, I would not have made if I was anybody. I would have waited to get to the straightaway. She didn't have to worry, though. She timed it just right, pulled alongside him. Petway did that there right now. As a matter of fact, I can tell you this. He is congratulating her as we speak. Of course, very sportsmanlike is James Petway Sr. He is congratulating him right now. A very, very heroic, if you will, effort on the part of Carrie Pritchett. She did a fantastic job. Boy, you know, this is one of the things that we talk about in this type of racing is when you get a lead and you get into lap traffic. And by the way, let's point out that the pass for the lead actually occurred before they ran into lap traffic. Well, thankfully, the lap traffic was ahead by a couple of seconds before she managed to pull away. I'm convinced that if she hadn't have pulled away, it wouldn't have worked out. We will give you the final rundown. By the way, we're going to let you know there are several alternate drivers that are in this finishing order because the other drivers dropped out, and so they will not be listed as they are. As when you alternate, that means you forfeit the rest of the, not forfeit the race, but it's like a relay. It's like passing the baton. So it's like a team, as it were. And so there's quite a few drivers alternating for each other, and there were several of those, except for the 26th to the 26th and 27th and 28th place cars that we'll talk about momentarily as we give you the rundown. So we're going to finish things up here with this rundown. It was Carrie Pritchett to the win. It was James Petway Sr. who finished second. J.J. McKay third. Walter Johnson fourth. Here's where the alternates come in. In fifth place, Tony Hamilton. Anthony Richardson is 6th. Afton Holden 7th. Ashton McGuire 8th. James McGuire 9th. 10th is 10th is Suki Yamamoto. 11th is Shinji Yakamoto, correction. 11th place belongs, or correction, 12th place belongs to Rob Hamilton. Ray Tillotson ran 12th, finished 12th. 13th place is Harry Tuoler. 14th place, Jennifer Fisher. 15th place, Lisa Campbell. 16th place, and this is, again, as I said, a lot of rundowns. Kayleen Wigarbo. 17th place, Heather Williams. 18th place, Stacy Fracolo. 19th place, Macy Anderson. 20th place, Mason Porter. 21st, that would be Jess Wymore. 21st is Jess Wymore. 22nd, Amber Wachowski. 23rd, Stan Hamilton, 24th. Mark Hamilton, 25th. Mike Hamilton, 26th. Holly Anderson, 27th. Wally Perez, and 28th. Finishing last is Haley Thomas with that accident. James Parker also was out earlier before that with a mechanical failure, but as we said, several alternate drivers kicked in. So thanks to that, the car finishing fourth, which James Parker would have been driving, finished fourth, which means regardless of his original status, he's able to still collect a lot of points. And that's going to be big, especially when they go to the Missouri Valley Invite this next weekend. And we're told the other event that we need to be watching out for on the calendar is a second Minutair Road Course Invite, which we will attempt to try to bring you. And then a long one. Don't forget, in early, mid-September, the Grand Prix of New York, the longest Grand Prix circuit that we run, 14 turns, 5.136 miles on that road course, a long, long track. And that's going to be very interesting indeed. Jess Mangan with our statistician tonight. Alongside us with our reports, Jim Porter in the garage area, of course, with no audio equipment, but still kept us abreast of everything. And several others to thank. We want to thank you, the viewer, for listening. This is Blinded by Brandon on the channel name. The name is Brandon Hennison. You are listening to a special presentation of Brandon Hennis Productions, a division of the Super Spotlight Show. Don't forget, you will be able to hear more Super Spotlight stuff in the future. Next up on our live, more serious videos, we're going to talk about rare medical conditions and the failure to understand judgment versus not. That'll be on our next edition of the Super Spotlight Monologue with Brandon in the People and Blog section. For Jess Mangan, I'm Brandon Hennis saying so long for now. Thank you for listening to this special edition of the Supersonic Infield 200 simulated racing event. The following event that you heard was simulated. There was no racing action. All names mentioned are coincidental. This may be retransmitted with the reminder that all content provided herein is simulated. If you have any questions or feedback, please contact Brandon on Telegram, Brandon Hennis 1986. Discord, Telegram, Chinmouth86. Discord, Brandon Hennis 1986. Email, kc0usm@gmail.com. And, of course, don't forget, look for the channel here on YouTube. Put your comment in, Blinded by Brandon. Thanks for listening.